Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk About It Tuesday. I am Chelselia Cookie Payne, founder of Pain and Glory Incorporated, and the host and administrator of this particular group, Pain in the Pews Mental Health and Ministry. I'm so happy that you have decided to join in on this Tuesday evening and be with me on tonight. I'm so happy that you're here. Be sure to go ahead and share this video, this broadcast. Be sure to submit your comments. Let me know that you're here, whether you're watching live or watching the replay. We are glad that you are here. Glad that you are tuning in to be a part of tonight's broadcast. I don't take it lightly that you take time out of your schedules on a Tuesday night to be a part of us. I apologize for the background noise. I'm actually sitting outside on a patio, and you'll hear that some people are doing their yard work as the sun is getting ready to, it's not as hot out, so people are doing their yard work. So I apologize for any background noise that you guys may hear. But listen, we wanted to dive in. I wanted to kind of update you on some very interesting things that has taken place. This past weekend, we hosted our quarterly mental health and ministry chat and chew, and the topic was pastoral care. It's not necessarily what you think, but it's so necessary. It's not what you think, but it's so necessary. And what I love about it is when we asked about, what do you think pastoral care is? And a lot of people responded that they thought that it was taking care of the pastor, making sure that the pastor doesn't become overwhelmed, ensuring that the pastor is taken care of in certain aspects. And when they found out from my guest speaker, who is Dr. Brian Jones, he is a mental health physician as well as an ordained minister. He is the founder of the Joshua Generation Care and Consulting Group, as well as he has several practices that are set up throughout metropolitan Atlanta. When he began to explain that pastoral care has nothing to do literally or directly with the pastor, but is more taking care of the body of Christ, taking care of the needs of others as pertains to their emotional, spiritual, mental health. Being able to identify those needs and really help people to get through situations. And he began to expound upon some examples some examples of that very thing, and what we can do and how we as people can be more humane towards other people and looking out for one another in so many aspects. And we talked, one of the things at the time, he did not even know that I will be talking about the topic tonight. He did not know I was going to be talking about church hurt and mental health, and he actually touched on that very thing. He really kind of talked about what is taking place as far as people are being hurt, and not intentionally. It's not intentional, but people are being hurt in churches, in spiritual organizations. It's not always a particular denomination. It's not always a particular group. So it's not the black church, or it's not the Catholics, or it's not it's just in general. We find that people are hurting because of lack of knowledge and understanding of how. And we're specifically talking about people who are dealing with mental health issues. And let me be clear. Before we dive completely in. Let me be clear. Not always am I talking about, when I say a mental health issue, I'm not always talking about someone with an extreme case. That's not the only thing. I'm not only talking about people with a diagnosed mental health issue. I'm talking about both. I'm talking about people who have a diagnosed mental health issue. Excuse me, is something. I'm hoping that wasn't a bug. I'm sure it wasn't a bug. Not a bug. I'm not only talking about people who have a diagnosed mental health issue, but I'm talking about people who are going through. There are people who are going through. People who have suffered loss, people who are going through. There are people, and when I say loss, that could mean death in the family. That could mean divorce. It could mean the loss of a job, which is a loss of a livelihood. There are many things that we as people go through, and because of the lack of knowledge, the lack of understanding of how to treat, and I don't mean treat as a physician, but how to interact with people, it is causing people to leave the church. Not just go to another church, leave church, not leave God. And this group of people, and we've talked about here before, we talked about it online. These people are called dones, D-O-N-E-S. People who are done with church, love God, still anointed, still pray, still seeking after God, still worship, still have a relationship with God, but the actual building, the politics of it, and the people who don't have an understanding of what it means to be a disciple of Christ, people are done. Let me be also clear in this. I want to be clear in a few things. Clear in the fact that I'm not only talking about people with extreme or diagnosed mental health illnesses, but let me also be clear in this. I am not in any way bashing or coming down on or coming against the church in any way. If you've been a part of this broadcast or a part of this group or haven't even known me on any level, you know that that is not the case. That is not the purpose of this group. That is not the purpose of even this post, this broadcast now tonight. It is not. It is simply to give information and insight, because while it is true that church hurt is real, and church hurt and mental health is a real thing, there's also help and healing. There's also a remedy for how to address it. You know, if there's an elephant in the room, let's address it. Let's not keep sweeping it under the rug and act like church hurt doesn't exist, and people only leave the church because they're things aren't the church is asking for money. No, that is not why people are leaving the leaving churches in droves. That is not why people are leaving churches in droves. Let me give you some examples. These are examples that I personally know. Personally. Either because of interviews I've had with people or people I know literally directly. Let me give you some examples of what I mean. Young lady that we had earlier this year at our Chat and Chew, our mental health and ministry Chat and Chew earlier this year. She is a NAMI peer specialist. She does a lot of speaking engagements. She is a dynamic person. She is one who talked about her experience when, after having had a manic episode, the first that she had ever experienced in her mental health journey. She experienced a manic episode which caused her to be hospitalized. She was released from the hospital, taking her medications, she was under recovery really well. Loved God and just wanted to get back to church. However, hey, Sister Rosemary, however, this young lady, and she, in her own words, she said that she didn't allow herself the time to get fully healed. You know how when you have a medical procedure and they tell you to wait 6 to 8 weeks, it takes 6 to 8 weeks for the healing to take place? Well, same is true was true for this young lady. She had waited 4 weeks before going back to going back to church and trying to get back into the flow of things. And in her words, she went back a little too soon because she still was recovering, she still was healing. This was a whole new experience for her, having gone through a manic episode, number one, and happened to be hospitalized, number two, taken, not with her family. Just everything was all new. So she's, and then having to take medication, which was all of it was new. So she went to church, and when she went to church, the one thing that I keep hearing people say happened to her, which was they prayed for her as if she, the individual, were a demon. And it hurt her so to the core. Instead of understanding, if you want to pray with someone, pray their strength, pray for them, but don't, if they are dealing with a mental health issue, when you pray for someone or you address someone as if they are demonically possessed, or as if they themselves are a demon, or they themselves are the problem, imagine how hurtful that is. When you go to pray for someone who has been diagnosed with diabetes, we don't do that to them. When we pray for someone whose child has been diagnosed with a physical malady, we don't do that to them. But when the moment someone says, I'm depressed, I'm hearing voices, or I'm anxious, then you because people have not been trained, there's opportunities, there's mental health first aid courses, there's pastoral care training that can be taken, but because people are so accustomed to regurgitating what they've heard and not really delving in and trying to do their due diligence and do research and find out, how do I respond to someone who says that they are depressed? What do I do? Let's pray, but what is the prayer? What do I pray? And then what assistance do I offer them after? Right? So then you've got people like the young lady who I was just describing to you a moment ago, who tragically hurt. As I mentioned a moment ago, we had our quarterly chat and chew this past Saturday, and one of the attendees that was there, she said that in the midst of a service, there was a young lady who was just crying out. She was really just pouring out. She was crying out, and there were ministers around her rebuking and just surrounding her, just rebuking what wasn't necessarily accurate, if that makes sense. So what the young lady who was there on this past Saturday did was she said, just wait, and she grabbed the young lady by the hand. She asked her some questions. And then she asked, would you mind if we go over here, and she got her in a place where she could answer her question, ask her questions, and the lady could answer and respond back to her. And it became immediately clear of what she was going through. She was going through a major situation where it was just a lot on her at one time, and she was crying out because of what was going on, right? There are people who are hurting in the pews. They're pain in the pews. There are people who, because we are so conditioned, and when I say we, I mean we as the church, are so conditioned to responding in one particular way because there's no teaching, there's no understanding. I gave the analogy the other day. Discernment is so key, Priscilla. You said it. I gave the example the other day that we, and again I'm talking about the church, we are so used to having the baby bird, mama bird mentality. We know how mama birds feed their baby birds. Without being gross, you know how mama birds feed their baby birds, right? And that's how a lot of times we are in church. Instead of us going and digging up the worm for ourselves, getting the understanding, getting the training, getting acclimated to what we need to do in order to be effective for people across the board, how to handle certain situations, what we do is we wait for the mama bird the pastor, the elder, the minister to consume whatever it is. We don't know if it's good, bad, disgusting, right or wrong. We wait for it to be them to consume it, and then for us to for the mama bird, in this analogy, to regurgitate it and feed it to the baby birds. And so we are actually not even doing our due diligence and going in and getting the training that we need. And that was one of the things that our guest speaker expounded on that was so key, is the training. We go to seminary in church. We go to seminary. We go to Bible college. We go to Bible training. We go to Bible studies. Sometimes, right? That's not always the case. Sometimes it's just internal. Sometimes it's just something that the church has. All that's good, and all that is great, because in all that getting good understanding is what the Bible tells us. But again, in all that getting get understanding is what the Bible says. So if I'm going to be trained in how to respond to the total person, I need to couple everything that the Word of God is telling me with practical application. Because people are leaving churches and not coming back. They're not coming back. There was a time where people would leave the church and just go to another church until they found the right fit. Okay. But now, there isn't a fit. Because after you've been treated as though you are the problem, or as was established on this past weekend, you're not seen at all. You're just kind of bypassed. And, I'll be praying for you, sister. I'll be praying for you, brother. But you really don't know what you're praying for. I haven't even told you. You haven't allowed me the opportunity to tell you what to pray for. So you give me a canned response and say, I'll be praying for you, but number one, will you? Or are you just saying that just so that we can have a nice cordial church hug and you just keep moving on? Or will you really be praying for me? And if you are, how effective will your prayer be if you don't know what my need is? The effectual, fervent prayer of the righteous availeth much. How is it effectual or effective if you don't know, if you're praying a blanket prayer for a targeted situation? So you've got people who are hurt. And I've heard it said, I've heard people say, we shouldn't say church hurt, and people try to compare, you go to your job, and my best friend who's on here, Priscilla, and we've had this conversation. I think it's Priscilla, or maybe it was my sister. I think it may have been my sister. We use that analogy. You have issues with your job, but you still keep going. You have issues with your family, but you're still a part of your family. That is no comparison to going to church. That is no. You have to go to your job. You have to. You stop going to your job. You have nowhere to live, no food to feed your children. No, so in practical thinking, I don't have to go to church, but I have to go to work. So the comparing the two is almost dismissive. It's almost insulting that we would compare the two, because going to church, if I may use this example without being offensive, because again, let me be clear, I am in no way bashing the church at all. No way. Because while we're talking about this, we're also going to be talking about solutions and remedies. Listen, if I may use this analogy, because you can't compare me going to work and me going to church as the same thing, right? But, however, you can compare going to church and going to the gym. I don't personally, but you can have a membership to a gym because you know that you need to go. Exercise is good for you. It helps keep you healthy. It helps with your exercise helps almost every part of your system, the systems that are in your body, your circulatory system, your respiratory system, your mental health. Your exercise has plays a very huge part of the overall success of your health and well-being. Arguably so, hands down. We all know this. We know that exercise prevents certain illnesses, and exercise helps certain illnesses to decrease or even be eliminated. If we exercise more, if we implement exercise into our daily routine, then we know that we will see results and that they will be positive. You exercise the wrong way, or don't follow what is supposed to be done as pertains to your particular body, what may work for me, where I may not be able to do weights, another person may have to do a lot of cardio, whatever works for that specific person. But if you do something the wrong way, you run the risk of injury. And there are signs posted inside the gym that talks about preventing injury, right? And if you do this, this will happen. Membership to a gym. If I miss out going to the gym, I won't see the results that I once saw, but I have the tools. So if I miss out going to the gym, but I still work out at home, I still have that option. Follow me with this analogy with the church and gym. I go to my church, or same parallel, if I go to my church and I do the things I'm supposed to do, but if by chance in my going to my church or place of worship, because as I said at the beginning, it's not a denomination, it's not whatever your place of worship may be, right? I go, and if there's injury or if there's harm done, I'm not as prone to keep going as I was when I was on track and things were going well. But if my trainer, as with the gym, or if me trying to handle things on my own, as with the church and the gym, if things get off track and there's injury, I'm more prone to go home and try to work out at home because injury has taken place. Right? Now, but I can't compare that to working a job. You need income, you need resources. And when people negate the fact that church hurt is real, that there are people in the pews, there are people in the pulpit, there are people in the parking lot who are hurting for whatever reason. The examples I gave a moment ago, it could be a loss of someone, whether it be through death or through divorce or even miscommunication, right? Friendships. It could be health. It could be a mental health issue. It could be a myriad of things. And people are hurting. And because there is not adequate and sufficient training, people are leaving and they're worse off in many cases than when they started out. Here's another thing. This just happened. I'll share my own experience. This happened today. I posted earlier on Facebook about how I was at the dentist. I had to go to the dentist. Well, I had to go because I have been experiencing a lot of, I find myself in the middle of the night, my teeth are clenched to the point that my jaws and everything just aches, like everything from my ears on around, right? I grind my teeth and clench my teeth so hard, and to the point, like I said, to the point where it was pretty bad, and I actually thought I had a cavity. Turns out I had a chipped tooth. And this began because I tracked it back because I started thinking about, because this was new to me. I mean, as a kid, as far as back as I can remember, I would grind my teeth, but it wasn't anything that really in my sleep. But lately, I noticed a difference. And when I thought back on it, and when I noticed when it started recently with the passing of my godmother. And that was the end of April. And it progressively got worse and worse, and to the point I have got to go and see a dentist, because I was like, why? And my teeth, it just, everything just aching, right? Like right now it's tender. It's not, I don't have like a toothache. It's kind of hard to explain. It's like everything hurts, right? So I'm in there and they take x-rays, and what the first thing they asked me out the gate, first thing they asked me, after they take the x-rays, have you been under added stress, or has anything recently happened that will cause you to cause this change? And then when I said about the passing of my godmother, they were like, that is not uncommon. That is not uncommon that we would see this. So here I am going this situation that I'm dealing with, because grief is something. Grief is something, and it presents itself in so many ways. Who knew that grief would present itself with so much pain and discomfort in my face, right? So you have people who, and I didn't even know. I just happened to think back, well, when did this start, right? And you've got people much like myself. Now, of course, it took me a minute, but I thought about where it started. But you have people who are going through issues, and they may not be able to pinpoint where exactly their pain point started. They just know that there's something going on. I was able to trace back what was going on, and now I have to go back, and they're going to be doing some things and helping. Everything from my glands to jawline, everything. There's a whole lot of stuff that has to be done, right? But what about the people, as I said a moment ago, who don't really know where their pain point started, what the cause is? They just know that something's not right, and they need someone to partner with them and understand and pray with them, give them guidance, and A-N-D, and a referral to get some help. Because what I did after my godmother passed away, I knew I needed to talk to someone, and I did. I went and I went and made an appointment and went and sat down and talked to my therapist, and I felt so much better. I did. It was as if a weight was lifted off of me, but I still was dealing with, and I didn't until I thought back about when it started. Even though I really did feel better with talking to my therapist, there's still, and it affects me mainly at night, that anxiety still there. And so what's key is understanding that not everybody knows what's going on with them, right? If we can partner, here's the solution part, because we talked about and trust me when I tell you, we could be here all night talking about church hurt and how people respond to people in different situations and how they respond. When people are going through whatever season they are in their life, how people respond. People in church, in ministry, and leadership specifically treat people, and how they oftentimes mental health issues are diminished and relegated down to your faith isn't strong enough, or the horrible statement, which I think should be banished from the planet, is I went through that, so you should be all right. My sister went through that, you'll be all right. Shake it off. Your faith isn't strong enough. I'm just giving you examples of things that have been said to people, and I know it for sure because I've heard it. You've heard it as well. When you say, I went through this, you'll be all right. Your situation is not my situation. Your thought processes are not my thought processes. That what I'm going through cannot compare to what you've gone through, and the same vice versa. So comparing yourself to someone else and what you think someone else should be experiencing or should not be experiencing, oh my goodness, that's like a slap in the face. it is like a slap in the face. So here's the solution part, because like I said, we could be here all night talking about, we can talk about church hurt all night, literally. Like, we could dedicate plenty of time to it. But there's training. There's training. There's mental health first aid courses that are available. I offered it myself through Pain and Glory. We're going to have another one. We had to reschedule it, the mental health first aid for youth. We had to reschedule that, but we will be having that, so that if you work around or are around youth and on any level, whether it's in your family or you just want to, you work with youth, or you just want to know, if I see these signs, this is what I do. Definitely a course to take. But the mental health first aid course is an 8-hour course, but it is so worth it. I've taken it, and when I tell you, knowing the signs and knowing what to do, you know, the simple things, like if someone is having a panic attack, or if someone is going through something, you don't lord over them, you don't stand over them, you sit down eye level with them. If they're on the floor, sit down on the floor with them. If they're in a chair, sit down. Don't stand over them. And no, simple things like that. We saw in the news, if you haven't seen it yet, the designer Kate Spade committed suicide today. There are signs. There are signs. Oftentimes people say, I didn't see the signs. Well, you may have, but you didn't know it. But there are courses available. There are courses available. There's pastoral care training that we talked about this past weekend. And I will put links to how you can access these trainings in the thread below, as I do all the time. I'll share with you information. But you know, even if you don't take the courses, which I truly advise, there are resources such as NAMI.org that you can go online, and you know, they will give you a list of signs. These are things to look for. There's SAMHSA, SAMHSA, that you can go to. There's so many mental health sites that you could go to that will help you. There's also the opportunity, you know, to you know, here in Pain in the Pews or Pain and Glory, whichever site you want to go to. If you want referrals, you know, I offer referrals. I refer people. I'm actually referring more people more and more. But even when you're in the midst of it, if it's in your church or a place of worship, if there is a pamphlet, if there is a list of resources that you can get after you leave the altar, right? After the altar call, then what? So, you know, afterwards, you know, my brother, my sister, you know, I know that we prayed and I'm believing God with you, but here, let me give you this. You may want to give this number a call, or give one of these numbers a call, and get, you know, and see if about talking to someone further beyond today. Beyond today. Because we know that we serve an awesome God. We serve an awesome God, and on this earth, in this earth realm, He has placed individuals here for our health and healing, to make us whole, mind, body, and spirit. He gave those to us. He equipped us with people. He equipped people for us to use for these services. So just as we have elders and ministers and pastors and preachers and teachers and evangelists and bishops that can pray a prayer of faith and believing and healing, and we believe by faith for total healing, whatever your issue is, physical, mental, emotional, financial, we believe God. And even with that, couple that with practical resources. If you have a financial need, me giving you $20 is not going, that will help you only temporarily. But me giving you $20 plus helping you to get into a Dave Ramsey program, or giving you the book on financial peace, or helping you to beef up your resume, something that is going to help you long term. So it is with mental health. Me praying with you a targeted prayer, right? Because if someone comes up and says, pray for me, I'm dealing with cancer or diabetes or heart disease or, whatever the case may be, we pray a targeted prayer that God lower their blood pressure, that God regulate their blood, that God, kill the cancer cells and restore, rejuvenate their body with new cells. Whatever the target prayer is when it comes to a physical malady, those are the same targeted prayers that we need to pray for people when they are dealing with an emotional or mental health issue, and then provide them with a resource. I hear Priscilla says, you diminish a person's pain, grief, and condition, etc. when you tell them things like, I went through it and you'll be all right. So true. And if you would only believe God, oh my God, that alone, or even, or what, as the older people used to say, what grinds my gears is laughing it off. Ain't nothing wrong with you. You just ain't praying enough. And it's said in a joking manner. Oh, I went through this and I don't have any psychological setbacks. Oh, how crushing. And you say it in an open forum and it's laughed at, because it's not laughed at as humorous, it's laughed at in a nervous laughter. And I'm sure we're all familiar with that, where it's not really funny, but it's like a nervous laughter because it's said in an open forum and it's an uncomfortable situation. So we join in this nervous laughter, but it's not funny. When people are leaving here permanently, not just leaving the church, leaving this world permanently. Pain in the pews. Church hurt is real. Let's be honest. You can call it what you want. We can be in denial all we want. Church hurt is real. People have been hurt. People have been hurt by people who carry titles, who carry Bibles, who carry some level of authority, but carry no compassion. And I say that, and that's not in all cases. Sometimes it is just a lack of knowledge. Sometimes it is simply, oftentimes, I would even dare to say most times, it's sheer ignorance in the areas that they are unfamiliar with, and they have the mama bird, baby bird syndrome. They're just regurgitating what they've heard, and they are mimicking what they've seen. And so instead of doing the research, getting the training, getting what is needed, it's just regurgitated, which perpetuates. So imagine, the mama bird has an infection, has a sickness, has a cold, has a situation, and she's ingested the food, and now she's ingested it, and now she's regurgitating it up and feeding it back to her baby birds. So now not only is she infecting those she's feeding, she's not getting any better, and neither are the baby birds. Same thing is true in ministry. If we are not careful, we will become infected and then infect others from lack of knowledge. Go and dig up the worm yourself. There's help, there's hope, there's healing. This cycle does not have to perpetuate itself. It does not have to continue. Absolutely, Priscilla. Priscilla says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. Ignorance is not bliss. It's deadly. So true, Priscilla. So true. So I want to leave you guys with that. There's so much more I could say, and I probably in another broadcast may say, but I want to be clear. This is not in any way bashing the church or any religious organization or any spiritual organization, but it is to shine a light on the fact that there are people who are hurting. They are dones, D-O-N-E-S, dones. They are leaving the assembling of the church, and they're going out on their own and hurting. And they're hurting most times because they're wounded, and the blade that stabbed them is still in them. And the blade that stabbed them came from within the four walls of the place of worship. Church hurt is real. Church hurt is real. But we could do better. There's an expression, I think, that Maya Angelou said, we know better, we do better. I love Maya Angelou, but I have to disagree. As many of us know to do better, and we simply haven't. It's a choice. It's a choice. Listen, I am Chelselia Cookie Payne, founder of Pain and Glory Incorporated, and your administrator for this particular group, Pain and Abuse Mental Health and Ministry. Don't forget, coming up September 21st and 22nd, we will be hosting our fourth annual Pain and Abuse Mental Health and Ministry Conference. I'm so excited. This will actually be our fifth annual Pain and Abuse Conference, but it's our fourth annual Pain and Abuse Mental Health and Ministry Conference. We started Pain and Abuse 5 years up. We've had 5 conferences that were specific to pain and abuse, but this is only the 4th year that we started Mental Health and Ministry. I'm super excited. That Friday night, the 21st, we will have Bishop R. Christopher Brown that's coming here from South Carolina. When I tell you, you don't want to miss it. I'm not exaggerating. It's not cliche. It's not just something to say to get people to come. I promise you, you really, literally don't want to miss it. And then on that Saturday, and Friday night is at 7:30 p.m. It's going to be held at Vision for Souls Family Worship Center. That's located in Mableton, Georgia. And on that Saturday morning, we will have a Mental Health and Ministry Expo where we will have vendors, mental health professionals, authors, people who have goods and services, vendors all over. However, what we're also going to have is some dynamic guest speakers, and we're going to have a panel discussion. And the panel discussion is going to be, wait for it, pain in a pulpit. We're going to be talking about pain in a pulpit. When I tell you the dynamic people that we have on this panel, you don't want to miss it. There's going to be question answer time. There's going to be, like I said, other speakers that are going to be there. That's going to start at 10 a.m. on the 22nd. You don't want to miss it. If you yourself or you know people who want to be a vendor, have them to go to the vendor site, which is open right now. You can go to our website, painandglory.com, and see how to become a vendor there. I'm looking forward to it. I cannot wait. September 21st and 22nd. Listen, I have enjoyed being here with you guys. I love you so much. I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday, where we'll be enjoying Let's Talk About It Tuesday. Have a wonderfully blessed evening. And don't forget, church hurt is real, but there are solutions, and we can be that solution. Love you much. Talk to you soon.